شكرا للدكتورة إلهام. أنا فخور جدا والله بتقديمها. تقول للدكتورة خلوا الناس تطاق عليكم. هذا الشيء ما يجي فقط بتكرير ما يفعله الآخرين، بل بالإضافة والتطوير وتعلم أشياء جديدة. في العالم في مشاكل كثير نشترك في التعرض لها، أو نشترك حتى في آثارها. لكن العالم الغربي لفترة طويلة، فترة بعيدة الآن، تقدم علينا في خطوات غير منطقي أنه يتقدم علينا فيها، لأن عندنا كل القدرات الموجودة، عندنا العقليات موجودة، عندنا الطاقات موجودة، لكن ما زال في شيء ناقص. هذا التوك وهذا الحديث راح يكون عن هذا الموضوع. فقط للتنبيه، الحديث راح يكون بالإنجليزي، فالشباب والبنات موجودين معانا معاهم أجهزة ترجمة، في حال أحد يحتاج جهاز ترجمة بس يرفع يده، والشباب والأخوان المنظمين راح يعطونكم جهاز الترجمة. أوكي، خلونا نرحب بأستاذ مشارك في علم الاقتصاد، أحد أعضاء هيئة التدريس في جامعة الفيصل، دكتور نجاتي أيدن.
Assalamu alaikum. So I'm going to talk about my journey with the West and the rest, but let me look around. I see you're a little bit tired. I see some sleepy heads. I think you need some exercise. We're going to start with exercise first. We'll start with brain exercise. Here's a question for you. Imagine that you're born again and given two options. A, to be a happy animal. B, to be unhappy human for your entire life. Happy bird or unhappy beggar? Let's see the hands. Happy bird, please. Okay. Unhappy beggar. Okay, very rare. We'll come back to these questions. Now, we'll start with, try to address 4 questions about the West and the rest. But first, start with the fact. What is the fact for last 500 years about the West and the rest? Now, once upon a time, from 8th to 11th century, Muslim world was having a golden age, while the West was in the dark ages. The Muslim world was the center of science, was the center of research. The West had to translate books from the Muslim world. The West had to learn Arabic for 700 years to study science. The number of books in Cordoba alone was more than the number of books in entire Europe. And this is resulted in many inventions. It is the facts. National Geographic came up with a book called 1001 Invention by Muslim Scientists. But something happened. The sun sets in the east and rises from the west. The West discovers something with enlightenment. Discover a treasure. Oil, maybe. No, actually something even more important than oil. The biggest treasure ever, I call. And with that, they become better in science and technology than the rest of the world. Those are some data showing that how the West is doing. And you can see here, based on income distribution, that the dark area is the rest of the world, and the light area is the Western countries when you look at the income per capita. Now why? What happened? Why the West has been doing better than the rest of the world for almost 500 years? That's the questions I try to find the answer for almost 20 years. And actually, there are many answers, but I will try to answer this question through my own journey. I was born in the east of Turkey, in agriculture society. I moved to the west of Turkey in industrial society. Then I moved to US for my graduate education in information society. Throughout my life journey, I try to find the answer of why the West is doing better than the rest of the world. Now, I read many books, engaged many discussions, visited many places, found many different answers. Some of those are those. But I think all of those are just the tip of iceberg. I will tell you what is unseen, what is the real secret. As I mentioned before, the real secret is the treasure they discover, is the treasure of mind the West discovered with the Enlightenment. Now they discover, as Muhammad beautifully explained, the West discovered that the mind has enormous things and treasure. The question, how can you unearth the treasure of mind? They came up with certain institution, but institution only works on certain value. Therefore, I call the Western success is value-based success. Basically, they come up with 9 values to mind the mind. And I will tell you what are those 9 values. And they use those value-established institutions to get the treasure of the mind. The very first one is critical thinking. Critical thinking is the first, in my view, because it's the way to unlock the power of the mind. It's the way to provide the filter to the mind to distinguish the fact from the falsehood. It's the way to truly make the mind to work. I remember when I was a graduate student in Turkey, one time, and expressed my different view in one of my class, the professor spent 2 hours to cleanse my mind. But then in US, I realized that I was encouraged to think differently. Not only that, I was rewarded to come up with different answers. Then I called this critical thinking. It's very important. Liberty, freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of thought. Essential. It's part of institution. It's part of constitution. No one can change it. Therefore, when you look at in US, the last election, the voter turnout was 55%. It doesn't matter who comes to power, no one can touch those values, the liberty. What I say that when people ask me about US, I give a very short answer. I say US is the place that is shortest path to Jannah and Jahannam. You have freedom to choose. It's up to you. Third is justice. But justice not as a story, justice as a theory. Justice not as a talk, justice as a practice. I first came across to John Rawls' books on justice and realized how important justice is, why we need justice. Fourth is the rule of law. The power lies within the law. No one is above the law. If you are right, you are powerful, even if you are not white American. I realized that. I was not citizen. Because the power lies in the law, not individuals. When you have trouble, you don't need to have wasita. You need to have good lawyers. Fourth, it's participatory culture. I call this the show of not one person, as the show of connected minds. It's team working and understanding the importance of participation. One of Turkish scholars put it this way. He says, it is a way to know how 4 can be bigger than 1,000. Because 4 individuals work individually. If you add up the outcome of their work is 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 equal 4. But if you remove the plus, put 1 side by side, remove the hierarchy, united them as a 1 number, you get 1,111. That's the power of team working. Equality, it's very important. No discrimination based on gender or religion or ethnicity whatsoever. Now I realize that in US, if you are Indian, not only you can drive cars, you can drive a big company like Microsoft and Google as well. Now can you imagine to have an Indian CEO for Aramco? Competency. It's very important. I say this is in In US, if you are 18, you are out. You have to rely on what I call Anna Bank, self-bank. You rely on your own capital. While in the West, you can rely on your parents, what I call Baba Bank. Give you credit to the end of your life. Why should you work? Now, we are compassionate, but compassionate killer. They are heartless, but heartless helper. 8, accountability. It doesn't matter who you are. If you make a mistake, you have to pay the price. This is the guy, he was the governor of Illinois for 7 years. He found to be guilty of getting bribes and now serving 14 years of sentence. Plurality. It's not tolerating the differences, it's appreciating, treasuring the differences. In the US, I had a relationship and friendship with every kind of individual. I had Buddhist neighbor. My kids now among you, they used to call them Buddhi uncle. I had atheist friends. We used to meet for 4 years every weekend. I published 4 books out of our discussion. So I realized that diversity is enrichment. Now, this is what I call the pyramid of the value that make the West to be successful than the rest of the world. Anything missing? Yes, for sure. Thanks to TEDx team, told me yesterday that I missed one very important thing. Yesterday night, we were supposed to meet at a restaurant for the dinner. I was told that the dinner started at 9 and finished at 10:30. I made arrangement accordingly. I went there and waited. No one came. Waited and waited and waited. No one came. It became 10:30. I had to leave. When I was leaving at the gate, I got the call from Adwa. He said, "Where are you?" I said, "I am about to leave." She said, "Why?" I said, "It's 10:30. She said, "I'm sorry." I said, "You don't have to be sorry. This is the West and the rest." Because I realized that what is missing is punctuality, is the use of time. It's absolutely one of very important difference between West and the rest. Then I have to revise it and call it the 10 tenets of the Western success. Thanks to TEDx again. Now they use those values and established institutions are great values, but then why some in the West hate the West? Very important question. And actually, this is the question that people in the West ask as well. They say, "Why do you hate us?" Marco Rubio recently said that they hate us because of our values. I disagree. Who can hate those great values? But then why some people hate the West? I say, which West you're talking about? There are 2 Wests. There is West for the West and West for the rest. West for the West has those great values internally. But West for the rest actually acts based on the national interest, not the human interest. The West internally have those values but do not internalize and therefore do not act based on those values that come to the rest of the world. And that's why people do not like the West. Some people do not like the West. Now, I don't blame them. Why? Because this we call real politics. And everyone, all countries act based on the national interest. But I strongly think that we should move from the national interest to human interest. Finally, what should we do with the West? How should we Westernize? I think this is the question of identity. Can we keep our identity and still be Westerner? And I think yes. And I think we need to go back to the question I asked at the very beginning. Now, with little modification, what would you like to be? Happy animal? Unhappy beggar? Or happy human? We don't need to ask. Everyone will say happy human. And I will say that if we get the sinking Western value, we'll become the happy animal. If we do not get anything from the West, we'll become unhappy human. But if we get the uplifting value, we'll become happy human. Now, finally, my journey with the West and the rest ended with no surprise. I realized that it's all about value. Once upon a time, we had those great values. We were experiencing the golden age. We lost those values, the West discovered them, and they are in the golden age. No surprise, and no words better than this can explain the West and the rest. الحق يعلو ولا يعلى عليه. Thank you.